Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'll be giving you my top 5 indie movies of all time. Now, before you guys get your panties in a bunch. Well, what about Requiem for a Dream, Donnie Darko, or Pulp Fiction, bro?
Don't be that guy.
Relax. It'll be okay. This is just my list and it is purely subjective. If you don't agree with any of the movies I have in the top 5, you could always take comfort in the fact that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Really?
So with all that said, movie nerds, here's my top 5 best indie movies of all time. Number 5. Memento.
Memento stars Guy Pearce as Leonard, a man trying to track down the person who raped and murdered his wife. Leonard suffers from a rare, untreatable form of memory loss, and although he can recall certain details of his life before his accident, Leonard can't form new memories, struggling to remember what happened 15 minutes ago, where he's going, and why. Quite the dilemma, if you ask me.
I have this condition.
A condition?
It's my memory.
Amnesia.
No. It's different from that.
Christopher Nolan's sleeper hit that made him one of Hollywood's most sought-out directors, Memento not only works as a film told backwards, but also as a film interested with the inner workings of the memory and what that makes of our own reality. There have been many movies about a character with amnesia, but telling the story backwards was a gimmick I think Christopher Nolan pulled off flawlessly. And on the basis of originality and execution alone, I think Memento warrants a spot on my list.
Why are you asking me? I can't remember what I've done.
Number 4. Lost in Translation.
If you aren't feeling lonely right now, you might be after watching this movie. Lost in Translation stars Bill Murray as Bob, a past his prime movie star who is scrapping every ounce of fame he has left to keep him making money through his comfy retirement. Bob is in Tokyo filming a very expensive $2 million whiskey commercial when he meets Charlotte, played by Scarlett Johansson, who just tied the knot and tagged along with her husband on a business trip. With Bob and Charlotte both having a lot of free time on their hands, the two form a bond that plays out throughout the entirety of the movie.
I could feel at the time there was no way of knowing. Fallen leaves in the night, who can say where they're blowing?
Lost in Translation is directed by the great Sofia Coppola, who does a great job avoiding the cliches and elements we usually see in just about every rom-com. This movie was charming, was funny, and bittersweet, and the feeling and mood it gave me lasted far after the end credits came, and that's what I really appreciated about this movie. My only complaint? What the hell did he whisper in her ear? Number 3. The Evil Dead.
I know now that my wife has become host to a Kandarian demon. I fear that the only way to stop those possessed by the spirits of the book is through the act of bodily dismemberment.
In 1979, wannabe filmmaker Sam Raimi used an abandoned Tennessee cabin to shoot a horror movie about 5 teenagers who inadvertently release a flood of evil and must fight for their lives before they become one of the evil dead. I rewatched this movie a couple of weeks ago, and trust me, the scare factor is still there.
Why have you disturbed our sleep, awakened us from our ancient slumber? You will die, like the others before you. One by one we will take you.
Sam Raimi turned precious little money borrowed equipment, and literally no experience into a film that has inspired virtually every horror filmmaker over the last 40 or so years. This film sparked 2 more sequels, and Sam Raimi eventually went on to direct the original Spider-Man trilogy 20 years later. Not bad for a beginner. Number 2. Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind. Put director Michael Gondry and screenwriter Charlie Kaufman together on a project, and you're almost certainly guaranteed to have your mind blown. Figuratively speaking, of course. After a painful breakup, Clementine, played by an always solid Kate Winslet, undergoes a procedure to erase all the memories from her ex-boyfriend Joel, played against type by Jim Carrey. Word eventually gets to Joel that his ex basically lobotomized him from her life, so he decides to undergo the same procedure, but shortly suffers a severe case of buyer's remorse. Eternal Sunshine also stars Mark Ruffalo, Kirsten Dunst, and Elijah Wood, back when Kirsten Dunst and Elijah Wood were a thing. Eternal Sunshine has its quirky moments, but Gondry and Kaufman had more in mind than just butterflies and sappiness. Delivering the most clever romantic comedy I've ever seen from an indie, at the end of the day, when all is said and done, our memories are all we really have, and when they're gone, we're gone. Coming in at number 1, The Terminator. With its multiple sequels and action-packed sequences, indie film may be the last thing that comes to your mind when you think of The Terminator. But do a little more research and you'll see this film has all the ingredients of an indie film. An inexperienced director, a little-known leading star, and a very low budget. Terminator was a breakthrough film for James Cameron, who proved he didn't need studio support to launch a franchise.
You can't do that.
Terminator stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as a cyborg assassin, traveling back in time to kill Sarah O'Connor, whose unborn son will lead the fight against Skynet, an artificial intelligence system that will spark a nuclear holocaust. Terminator propelled the careers of both James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger, as well as spawning multiple sequels that have grossed over $1 billion worldwide, making it one of Hollywood's most successful franchises. That to me is deserving of my top spot for best indie film of all time.
Alright guys, so there you have it. That's my top 5 for you. I know I left out a few other movies like Requiem for a Dream, Donnie Darko, Reservoir Dogs would have been on there. If I would have made a top 10 list, those movies would have been on it, but I am lazy, so you guys are just going to have to settle for a top 5. With that said, guys, that's all I got for this video. If you like this video and want to see more, just subscribe because there's going to be much more on the way. Catch you on the next one.
Hasta la vista, baby.